Hey everyone, it's Phil Frost and Mike Roberts, and we are here to present the Death of Old School SEO and the 5 rules you need to follow. And I'm Phil Frost from Main Street ROI, and we've got Mike Roberts from SpyFu. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Phil. It's great to be back. We had a great webinar last time on PPC rules, and so here we are back to talk about the rules of SEO.
Yeah, very excited. We got a lot of great feedback on our last presentation, so we decided to go for round 2. And like
I'm prepared fully to offer all of my most painful SEO failures. There have been many painful failures over the years, so I will disclose them all. Yeah.
All right. So some housekeeping. If you're new to GoToWebinar, there is a questions box. It should be in the upper right corner of your screen, and you can just type in questions. I see Nicholas, Greg, and Jennifer figured that out. Hello to all of them. I always recommend you turn off distractions, get the most out of this if you're not also scrolling through your Facebook feed. Hello to Holly. And I want to kick this off with another poll since Mike loved this last time.
These polls are so awesome. I haven't used them myself yet, but I think it's like the coolest feature.
So you should see on your screen, just to get a feel for who's on the line here, actually a lot of agencies, surprisingly. So the question is, are you currently working with an SEO agency? Obvious answers are yes and no. And then the third option is, we are an agency or I am a consultant. And about
where's the results of the, oh, do I see these results? The polls?
Yeah,
look at that.
Polls. So I'll close that one down here. It looks like not too much.
You going to show the results?
Sure, I can share that.
I think it's so neat to just that's how fast that came in. And how many responses do we get? Has to be a decent number because of the granularity of those. There's at least 260 people on, and 78% of people voted. So, dang, that is just so, I don't know. That's better than, that's the best feature I've seen in GoToMeeting in a long time. I mean, it's such a simple feature, but it's so amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like data.
I'm actually surprised 78% responded, which is great to see. The next one, just to get a feel for the size of the SEO budgets on the line. As I would expect, majority less than 500, actually quite a bit over 3,000 doing most likely big accounts, big websites, or those might be the agencies and consultants managing multiple campaigns. Let me close that out. Actually, a lot of people voting here. Up to 60%. All right, I'm going to close it down now just so we don't waste too much time, just to share those results. Unfortunately, I don't see it when I share it, so I don't even know what that looks like.
Oh, really?
But you can. Yeah, it just says I'm sharing it.
It looks really similar to the little thing that you have in your sidebar where you see the polls.
Okay.
It looks almost exactly the same as that, just bigger, just so you know. It's got a blue background.
Oh, nice. The last question here, and then we will move on. Just asking, what other digital marketing channels are you currently using? And the options are Google AdWords or Bing advertising, Facebook advertising, email marketing, social media, and there's an option for other. And if there's something there I didn't list, if you could just type that into the questions box. Nick said Amazon, LinkedIn, excuse me, print ads. So I was specifically saying digital marketing, but feel free to put in any offline marketing as well.
People said people doing sign tricks from the road. That's a good point. Yeah. Taboola, retargeting, choosable, flips and kicks. I love participation. Somebody asked whether or not there's a place that they can see the other webinar that we did on the PPC stuff. Do you know where that is? Are we able to put up a link to that? It's just a question someone asked.
Yeah, it should actually be on our YouTube feed. So if you go to YouTube, and then Main Street ROI is our username on YouTube. It should be in there, but I'm going to make a note to follow up with whoever asked that question.
Yeah, Cedra, if you're on the line, Cedra is my marketing person here that would probably be listening. If you're on the line, just respond to the answer if you can find it, Cedra, and I'll send out the link.
Okay, great. So let me hide.
She says she's looking now.
Okay, a lot of other people wrote in, said they want it, so we'll probably send that out in the follow-up as well.
Yeah, we'll send it out in this. I'll do a send to all once we get it. I'll do a send to all in the question, so everyone will get an answer for it.
All right, perfect. All right, here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to go through 5 painful SEO mistakes to avoid. Mike has some good ones, as he mentioned earlier. 5 rules you now need to follow to be successful with SEO. We're going to also take a minute to go through 3 SEO hacks you can use today. We do have 2 gifts for attendees, and at the end we'll do some live Q&A. Jerry, I saw your question will be on YouTube. Yes, it will. Now, if this is your first webinar where I was presenting, you're probably wondering why should you even listen to me. Well, my name is Phil Frost. I'm the founder of Main Street ROI. Our business provides digital marketing services as well as training, like this training today. To date, we've helped over 2,000 businesses with their digital marketing, and my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, as well as Mashable. And this is my favorite slide. I'm also the proud father of these cute kids. That's Violet on the left. She's going to be 4 years old, January 2nd. That's Emmett in the middle, my chubby son. He's about 1.5 years. And that's my beautiful wife, Erin, on the right. And if you can see in the background, we are at a beer garden for my son's first birthday. Now, why should you listen to Mike?
Okay. So this is me. Unfortunately, I don't have you only get to look at my face. One of these days, I'll swap that out, and we'll have my lovely family as well. I'm the founder and CEO of SpyFu. If you're not familiar with SpyFu, you just go over there and use it for free. A large portion of SpyFu is free. You can just type in a website and see every keyword that they've ever bought on Google, every organic ranking that they've had, or any time over the last 10 years. So you can kind of see how changes in their content has impacted their ranks. You can see how their how they've changed their ad copy and their keyword buying to impact their AdWords campaigns as well. You also look at their backlink profile, et cetera. All these things are things that we do at SpyFu. To some extent, yeah, I'm an industry-recognized expert, much to my chagrin, mostly because of all of the lessons that I've learned the hard way. And today I'm going to share some of those. I guess that's kind of the benefit of not, really the way that SpyFu makes money. The way that I make money is when people pay us a relatively small amount of money, $79 a month, to subscribe to the service. I'm not actually trying to sell you any of my expertise in terms of consulting or whatever. So I guess I'm free to tell you all the horrible mistakes that I've made, which as just an entrepreneur, somebody kind of like trying to sling my own, make my own way in the internet marketing world, I've made plenty. And have survived them all. So I guess there's some some hacks that I can also share.
Nice. And you got a lot of love on the Q&A there. A lot of people saying.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. Really, I do.
All right. Well, we're going to kick it off with the painful mistakes. And Mike, you are first up.
Awesome.
You want me to load everything on here?
Yeah, go ahead and load it. It'll help me. So I'll take you back to 2008. So one of SpyFu's best advantages, one of the things that we did was we were kind of first to market with this whole, spy on your competitors, download their keywords, etc. And so in that process, we built out like a really, really pretty amazing SEO footprint because the data that we were providing was, as it still is, like sort of largely free, right? You can go to the site and you see like the top 10 of everything. And so it made it so that we had like, billions of pages of content. And as a consequence, as a lovely sort of interesting consequence, we ended up with about 50 million page views a month. At some point, we were easily in the top 1,000 most trafficked websites, and it's probably somewhere in like the top 500 or 400 or something like that. But we were. I'll tell you what spoofing means in a second here. It's sort of not that long of a story, but here's the thing: is that the site was put together by like me and like a few other people, and we basically just had like these relatively small servers, and it wasn't ridiculously powerful. We had kind of been a victim of our own success in terms of the SEO stuff. Google was hitting us millions of times a day with their crawler, right? And in fact, they made up about half of our traffic. And our load balancer was actually a bottleneck. We were consuming maybe 200 megabits per second of bandwidth, which was quite a bit actually in 2008. It was as much as we could buy from our ISP. We were co-located, and we literally couldn't get more bandwidth. It was that was the maximum amount of bandwidth we were able to get. So what we did was we were like, man, this is great traffic, but we can't handle it all. And in particular, the Google crawler traffic is taking up like 100 megabits of our traffic. So what we did is we said, well, let's just. Google only needs like really the top 10,000 or so characters, right? That's what the idea is that they don't index your entire page. They only index the top, 10,000 characters of text, and we're sending like we're giving people like a megabyte per page. So let's just show people one thing, and let's show Google like a truncated version of things, just enough for them to index, but not the entire page of content. And that will be able to load fast, and it won't like cost us a ridiculous amount of bandwidth. Anyway, that's called spoofing. When you when you show Google one thing and your actual consumers another thing, that's spoofing. That's showing Google, and Google doesn't like that. Google's like, you need to show us exactly what you're going to show everybody else. It's like a really hard rule, and everybody, if you don't know it, you should absolutely know it. Don't ever change what you're showing to the Google crawler. They will penalize you. So what happened, even though realistically we were doing this for a good, with really great UX intentions, we were saying, well, what we really care about is our users. We care a little less about how well Google indexes us. Google took great offense to that, and our traffic dropped pretty abruptly from 50 million page views down to largely from a lot of that was from Google organic traffic. We dropped from 50 million to about 10 million page views a month. Realistically, just sort of long story short, most of that traffic was not, wasn't. It didn't really decrease our sales very much because most of the people that were trying to buy us, it's sort of offset by an increase in site performance and so on. But what it did do is like it was interesting because we could walk around the city, just like go to like the supermarket, and people would be like, "Oh, you're SpyFu. I've heard of you," and we're like, "Why have you heard of us? You're like the grocery store clerk. Why have you heard of SpyFu?" And we were like, "Oh, it's because we're on almost every search result ever." So yeah. Don't spoof Google. That's my first lesson. Lost about 40 over the years. You could call it about 40 billion page views. I'm sorry, 4 billion page views. Yeah.
All right, so the next one here is going to be my slide along those lines of what not to do. Do not create unnecessary pages. Google hates spoofing. Google also hates duplicate content. They hate low-quality content and unnecessary web pages. If you think about it from Google's perspective, it doesn't make sense for them to be indexing a lot of duplicate pages. They don't want to be indexing unnecessary pages, just kind of a waste of their resources. So it intuitively makes sense. My example is a client that came to us, and they had already set up these pages, and they had a lot of pages on their site and even subdomains set up that were targeting different service areas. So this is applicable for any business that is trying to target different service areas. So these weren't what they were targeting, but this would be an example. Let's say you have queens.yourdomain.com, and then you set up another site for Brooklyn and brooklyn.yourdomain.com, and those two sites are basically showing the same information about your business, and you're just trying to set those up to get ranked for those different locations. Well, the issue is, again, Google hates duplicate, low-quality pages, and you will eventually get this email, and this is an email from Google saying there are spam problems on your website. Google has detected thin content on your site that provides little or no added value. This critical issue results in irrelevant or low-value search results for Google search users and can negatively impact your site's ranking. That's an understatement, because the client, when they got this letter, was nowhere to be found in Google. So they were ranking, their website was ranking high in the search results, as well as the local listings. So Google My Business was ranking high. All of that got wiped out because of this. And the solution, we had to then no index all of those unnecessary pages and do a reconsideration request to lift this penalty. So that was a lesson learned. Hopefully you can avoid that. If you are doing anything like that in terms of creating lots of pages to target different locations, but they're all using essentially the same content, highly recommend you avoid that tactic, because eventually you'll likely get this email.
So a bunch of questions rolled in as you were giving this, and I wonder, like we tend to want to answer the questions at the end, but I think that we should probably answer these now because it'll make more sense contextually. And so, does that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So the first question that came in here, and I think that this actually may have pertained to mine as well, was a quick question for both of you. Does Google think SEO is bad? If not, then why do they caution or penalize against use or possibly overuse of keywords in order to show Google exactly what the company does by using long-tail keyword and LSI, which is latent semantic indexing keyword densities? How do we find the balance, that balance Google is okay with, yet defines the niche market of the company? So, what we're talking about there is Google will penalize keyword stuffing. So what you don't want to do is just is over-focus on the actual keyword and just try to make sure that you're using that keyword. Because Google can sort of detect that the density of the keyword is not natural, and so what you want to do is sort of focus on subjects, focus on the keyword idea, and then just write natural content about it. You would probably want to make sure that your keyword winds up in your H1 tags, and that's sort of the balancing act. Is write natural content, use your H1 and title tags. Don't necessarily stuff those, but just make sure that it fits in there in a title that also makes sense. So I'll answer that. The next one is makes more sense for you. He says, specifically, what do you mean by low quality? and combine that with, does Google rank pages versus posts differently?
So low quality, by that I mean just from a readability standpoint, do the pages read well? Do they make sense? So what Mike was saying is you definitely don't want to focus when you're writing the copy. You don't want to focus on trying to cram keywords in, because what that ends up doing is creating a page that is low quality. It doesn't read very well. It's very clear that you're just forcing words into the paragraphs for SEO. So Google doesn't want to see that. You really want to write as if you're talking to your ideal prospect, so don't even think about Google. But then, as Mike said, there are areas of the page, and we'll talk about this later, where you want to put the keyword in there, like the title and the headers. So low quality is just, if you think back to your English classes, you want to write a grammatically correct and a compelling web page for your ideal prospect.
Yeah, I think that it's almost easy to think about this if you think of the internet like from like 4 years ago, right? Like you'd basically be searching for almost anything, and eventually you'd run into like these pages where you look at it and you're like, this isn't real content written by a human. This is sort of like nearly generated, or potentially kind of like, you know what I mean? Like when we had like the actual, like Google has kind of gotten rid of the spam problem, so you don't run into like rich examples of this constantly because they don't show up in the SERPs anymore. But if you think back like 4 or 5 years, it was all over the place, and I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Somebody
it looks
else
like
asked,
it's written by. I was just going to say the last point would be, it looks like it's written by someone where English is not their first language. If you're just in terms of an English page, it's very clear that English is not their first language. Then that's going to be a low quality article.
Yeah. There was one person that asked whether or not the client payment pages would be unnecessary. So basically, a payment link on the client logo. I would think that that's a perfectly fine piece of content. Actually, it has a completely different purpose.
Right.
I would see no problem with that. And if Google does, then they eventually won't, because it's a legitimate separate piece of content. We have a lot of content on SpyFu that hypothetically looks pretty darn similar, but Google doesn't actually. We've never gotten one of these, spam notices, because it's even though we have some sort of what they would call soft 404s and such. I mean, if you think about it, we've got billions of web pages, and we don't get any thin content stuff.
Yeah,
you want to move on? There's actually a bunch of questions still, but maybe we should get to another slide.
Yeah, let me load this one up for you.
Okay, so this is mine. Okay, so this is a mistake that I've made. You need to look at your DNS records and pay very careful attention to every A tag and every CNAME that you have. So, and what I mean by that is that an A tag is like your, if you have like www.spyfu.com and you have spyfu.com and you have like dev.spyfu.com or whatever, you might have a bunch of these that you don't know about, right? Like you might have Mike's secret backdoor to spyfu.spyfu.com. Here's the thing. You may think that nobody knows about some of these URLs. They shouldn't know about your QA site or whatever, or the server-specific URL. But I will guarantee you that somehow Google will find out about that host, and they will index it. And guess what? Then you have a crap load of duplicate content, right? And in this case, it's not the same kind of thing as thin content. What I'm talking about is that my homepage, essentially the link juice that that Google has for SpyFu, for SpyFu's homepage, is divided between www, dev.spyfu.com, and like every other host that I've ever created. In addition, if you have HTTP and HTTPS, Like if you're doing SSL on your website, Google treats HTTP and HTTPS separately. You have to pay very careful attention to those things because they're hidden. You don't someday you're not going to see these in the search results yourself, and you'll never detect it in Google Analytics because Google Analytics treats all these things the same, right? Like your Google Analytics code is going to fire on your home page, but you don't really know that it's coming from www1.spyfoo.com, and you don't know that that's organic traffic. The only way to really see that that's happening potentially is to look at like your server logs, I suppose. But one way to do it is to look at like your Google Search Console and see if you're getting actual traffic. Like Google will tell you if you're getting traffic on those. You could look at like SpyFoo. SpyFoo will tell you. We're sort of like an independent auditor there. I hadn't actually thought of that until I mentioned it. But you need to be sure that what you want to do is make sure that you're doing a redirect on those. You want to do a 301 if you can, if it's like a dead one, right? For example, dev.spyfoo.com might go to a completely different server, right? It might be a server where we're actually doing our development. So we can't do a redirect. But what we can do is make sure that that in the robots.txt for that individual site that we tell Google not to index it. And that's really, really important, right? But that requires a little bit of technical expertise potentially. You need to make sure that your robots for all of those things don't allow indexing. And you should probably, for the HTTP and HTTPS stuff, this is when you need to, we use the word canonical domains, but what I meant here is that you use the canonical meta tag. Do I have a separate one? A separate slide, Phil? Phil put together these slides. Phil, do you know if I have a separate one just for canonical, or should I talk all about canonical right now?
Yeah, the next slide is case sensitivity, so you definitely touch on canonical now.
Okay, I'm gonna talk all about canonical. Let me tell you my mistake. I am a technical guy. Okay, I'm a really technical person, and I, for years, probably 5 years, ignored this concept of the canonical tag because I thought, well, this is probably sort of not like low-hanging fruit for me, and I thought that I didn't need to know about canonical tags because the word sounded really technical, because it sounded like nobody really needs to know about canonical stuff because nobody actually knows what that word means anyway. It's like, right? I was like, if they really wanted you to know about it, wouldn't they make it like a word that you already understand? This was my mistake, and I actually am kind of embarrassed to admit it. I'm actually really embarrassed to admit it. But I guarantee that I've lost at least $500,000 because I thought that I didn't need to pay attention to it because it was too advanced. But it's actually really important because even if all you need this for is HTTP and HTTPS, your traffic, all of your traffic is currently, your link juice is essentially getting split evenly between your HTTP and your HTTPS, which Google treats as like completely separate pieces of content. Furthermore, if you have case sensitive, if you have like capital spyfoo.com and lowercase spyfoo.com, or like, a capital page versus like /SEO versus lowercase /SEO, those two things, Google sees those as two separate URLs. And if you're not like actually redirecting from /capital SEO to lowercase SEO, at the very least, you need to like choose one of those to be the most important one, right? The most important one being the canonicalized version of the URL. So you want to say, and that's what you're doing, right? You're telling Google and all other search engines, this piece of content is the same as this piece of content, but I want you to treat this URL the spyfu.com/recon, the capital, the lowercase one, the HTTP or the HTTPS version one, whichever you choose is your most important one. I want you to use this URL as the one of highest importance. Send all the link juice to this one. It's super, super important, and I completely missed the boat on it because I was like, it sounds complicated, so I'm not going to learn it. You must learn this. It's not even complicated. All you're doing is choosing one URL of your duplicate sort of URLs and making it the important one. When I made my company like implement all canonical URLs everywhere, we picked up probably we picked up about 8% sales, straight up sales, right? We got a whole bunch of we had some new traffic, but it was actually important traffic because we actually increased our ranks on important keywords that the searches that basically we went from like third to second on a whole bunch of keywords that mattered, and ultimately probably added, I guess, $25,000-$30,000 a month in top line revenue. So it worked out well. Let's see, the Google case sensitivity thing. I think I went over this. This is a slightly separate slide, but I want to make sure that I touch every aspect of it because Google Analytics is not case sensitive, right? Let's make sure that we're all on the same page about what case sensitivity is. If you have the capital SEO versus the lowercase, or the capital SPIFU versus the lowercase, or some mixed case of that, if your server most likely supports, your server is probably case sensitive, right? So almost all servers, with maybe the exception of like IIS, treat a URL that's capitalized and versus one that's strictly lowercase as a different URL. So does Google, right? And it actually makes a lot of sense, or it doesn't. It depends on your perspective. If you're like a nerd, it probably makes a lot of sense to you. That's a different character. It has a different ASCII code, blah, blah, blah. If you're like a normal person, you're like, that's a different URL. Looks like the same URL to me. It's just capitalized. Well, that's actually how Google Analytics behaves, and that's how, let's see, that's probably how Google Search Console behaves. I'm not totally sure how Google Search Console behaves. Google Analytics behaves that way. Even SPIFU behaves at case sensitively, but Google does not. So it's important to make sure that you're redirecting to a lowercase and then using a canonical. I'll see if I have any other thoughts on that stuff. I'll just bring them up later.
Okay. All right. So next, and we're going to talk more about this later. So the mistake here is targeting the wrong keyword, and essentially you'll end up wasting a lot of time if you go after the wrong keyword. So when you do keyword research, you'll likely find a handful of keywords. They all look good, but you're not sure which one is the best. And the example here is business plan writer versus business plan consulting. They both look like they would attract the ideal prospect. And about 10 years ago, we made this mistake. We went after the wrong keyword and wasted a lot of time optimizing for business plan consulting. And I should have asked this question earlier, which one has more hiring intent? That's really the key takeaway here is when you look at those two keywords, one has more hiring intent if you are a business plan writer selling business plans. You should go after a business plan writer. It has more hiring intent. That might not be clear when you're doing your keyword research, but what you can do, and we eventually did this, was we looked at what the competitors were doing. So we looked at how their pages were optimized, what were they putting, again, in their titles and in their H1s. We'll explain that more later. And another tip that we should have done was actually tested this in AdWords. You can go into AdWords and do a relatively inexpensive test just put the keywords that you are considering into AdWords, have them go head to head, and then see which one drives more leads and sales for your business, and that's the one you should optimize for when you start doing your SEO on your site. So that was
That's a great
mistake.
tip.
Going after the wrong keyword when you have a handful of keywords, that can you can end up wasting months or even years without even knowing it. So right out the gate, I advise everyone to review your competitors, but even taking it a step further, testing those in AdWords can just save you a lot of time and a lot of money.
Awesome. So this audience is just so ridiculously awesome, and there's, as I was talking there, apparently there's like, I don't know, 20 questions or something. I want to answer them if I can here. What about so one of the questions is, what about blog.yourcompany.com? Should you point your canonical tag to point your main site? I can't integrate a blog into my shopping cart either. Actually, I don't totally understand that question. You would not. Okay, so the canonical tag is for URLs that are essentially the exact same content, right? It actually doesn't have to be exactly the same, like precisely the same content. For example, if you have like some kind of paging thing that happens when you have, if you like run out of pages and for some reason you have like a whole bunch of pages that show up, but you're actually just showing empty pages, those should all point to the same. Those are all not technically the same content, because it might say page 5 and another one might say page 6 with like no other content. You should probably solve that like from a technical perspective, but those would be examples of content that's the same, that's like not actually exactly the same. But in the case of your blog versus your homepage, you would not have a canonical tag. Oh, you know what? Maybe this guy is asking blog.mycompany.com. If that is the same as your homepage, if you have an A tag for your blog, but you don't really have a blog, you just have, it just happens to point to your site. In that case, you could create a canonical tag, and there'd be no problem doing that. You would create a canonical tag that would point to your main site. You would also just make sure that your robots.txt on blog.yourcompany.com just doesn't allow anybody to crawl it, right? And Google will respect that, and that's all that matters. Anybody else can just like decide to crawl blog.yourcompany.com, but that's what you should do. Alternatively, if you're not using that at all, just do a redirect or get rid of the alias, because you may not need it. You can just delete it if you don't have that. That's a perfectly reasonable way around it, and then you don't have any problems. People ask canonical where. Okay, so this is a meta tag. It sits at the top of your HTML. Just type in canonical tag, a canonical meta tag into Google, and it'll show you how to do it. You have somebody implement it, or you implement it yourself. It's actually ridiculously straightforward. I guess my point of the whole canonical thing is it's actually an entry-level SEO topic with a name that's kind of confusing. And somebody else is asking how do we know whether or not you have case sensitivity? And they asked, do I just type it in? That's certainly one way. Oh yeah, is there a good way to know if you're using caps and non-caps in URL? You should just test in your browser. Absolutely. So that example that I had in my previous one, where we had like spyfoo.com/recon versus spyfoo.com/all-caps-recon, that was actually giving a 503. So at one point it was giving a 503, which is actually not a huge SEO issue with SpyFoo, but then we fixed the 503 by redirecting it to the wrong place inadvertently. We just didn't even know it was really going on, and so some other fix ended up redirecting it to the wrong place. So, but only because it was capped. And so yeah, definitely testing it is one way to go about it. Yeah, testing it with your own. You could test it. Here's what you do: like you look at your backlink profile, and you look for any URLs that are that have capitals in them, and you make sure you test all of those, right? Because those are actually links that are pointing to you. That's a pretty easy way to do it. Use maybe Ahrefs, or you could use the Google Search Console. That's free, so you could just look at like your inbound links from there. That'll give you like all the links that Google sees. You can look through there and see if you have any capitalized ones. There's actually like at least 15 more questions in here, and we'll try to get to them all, but I guess we should probably move on to another slide.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I'll load this one up. This is the fifth and final mistake, painful mistake.
Yes. Okay, so this kind of goes back. I guess like mine have this sort of technical SEO sort of feel to them, right? But it's not that I haven't made a whole bunch of like on-page SEO errors, like the typical ones, or like sort of inbound link things. But it seems that the technical ones are the ones that don't get talked about and explained as much, and have ended up costing me the most amount of money, like millions of page views lost, like millions of dollars lost. I mean, honestly, not that I haven't made millions of dollars on SEO, but I've also lost millions of dollars on SEO with SEO mistakes, right? So, so this one's like one that just doesn't really make a lot of sense right off the bat. But Google Search Console treats every host differently. So all those A tags and C names that I was telling you about, you need to create a separate Google Search Console account for every single one of those. I don't think that they're actually called accounts. They're called like sites, right? But you need to make sure that you sign up for every one of those. And for every one of those, so like I've got like maybe, like let's say you have 10 servers, www1 through www9 or 10 or whatever, right? You need to create one for every single one of those, and you need to create one for HTTP and HTTPS, because Google Search Console treats traffic that goes to your HTTPS version of your site separately. Like it'll report it separately. You think that you're seeing all your traffic when you look at your domain as like spyfoo.com? False. You're like seeing probably 80% of it. But the other stuff is how you detect all that crap that you don't want to have happening. So it's a way to audit it, and you can't see it in Google Analytics. Again, I guess you can see it in SpyFu, and you would be able to see it in your logs probably, depending on how your logs are configured and whether you're tracking them right. But Google Search Console is a good way to do it. And actually, that's how I found a lot of our issues. It's also good because you can find if there's crawling errors. If you've got robots stuff, there's a lot of reasons to have Search Console accounts, but you have to create them for all of those.
And David actually had a good question here. So he's asking, how do you create those accounts and verify them if you're redirecting some of them to other accounts?
Great point. If you've got a site level redirect, if you've got a site level, if I'm redirecting www1, the whole thing, to, like, let's say www, then probably I don't need it, right? But I would create one anyway, just in case. I'd create it just in case something goes awry, like, because I want to be able to like verify that, right? Like, I know that technically this 301 should be happening, but somebody's doing that 301, and that somebody is me, but it's not necessarily me personally. It's like one of my employees. Somebody might be doing it at our basically our load balancer. Our load balancer can do 301s. Somebody might be doing it at the server itself. It could be being done by, I guess, like, you can do that through like your DNS provider. You can kind of do a 301. Or you might be able to do it just straight up 301 through your hosting provider, or through the DNS provider. but any one of those people could drop the ball, right? So it's useful to set that up, and then implement your redirect, and make sure that there's no traffic going there. But do you need to do it if you've already got a redirect working? Probably not. But if you find one and then you decide to do a 301, set up your Search Console first, then do the redirect, and then watch all that organic traffic go away. And it's fine. Sometimes, by the way, when you get rid of these duplicate content sites, it'll be like you have like www1, and it'll actually be driving traffic to your site. And then you make it all go away, and you're kind of sad, right? Because you're like, oh, that traffic went away. It was ranking on some things, maybe some random things, but some things nonetheless. So you're actually going to lose some traffic until Google catches back up with itself. But just have faith. It may take like a couple months, actually. It seems like it should be instant, but it's not. But it does come back, and you actually end up with more traffic than you started out with. It's a little bit terrifying in the interim, though, I'll admit.
And Travis asked if you can have multiple Search Console accounts under the same email, and yes, you can. You can have a ton of sites within the same Search Console login.
Yeah, maybe I'll pull that up and show that off here. You want to do the next slide, and I'll just pull up my Search Console so people can see what it looks like.
Sure. Yeah, I'll dive in. So we're done with the painful mistakes, and we'll now dive into the 5 rules you must follow. And you can just let me know when you've got that ready, Mike. So first rule, and they're all going to start with the letter R. So
I do have it ready, actually. Do you just want to flip back over? I can just show people what it looks like.
Yeah, you should get an alert in just a second.
Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So this is like what that would look like, right? So you see I've got like all these variants. I've got HTTP, I've got HTTPS, I've got it for pretty much every variant of SPIFU, and it's all under one account. And that's, it's actually called a property. So you want to add multiple. I didn't look that up. I guess what I mean to say is that you need to have multiple properties, one for each of your aliases. I'll flip back over to you now.
Okay. All right. Just going through the 5 rules. First one's research. More specifically, we're talking about keyword research. A couple tools you can use. First one is Google's Keyword Planner tool. And really what you're looking for here are relevant keywords that are actually being searched. You'll type in, Google's Keyword Planner tool works kind of like a thesaurus. You'll type in words and phrases that you think people are searching for to find your products and services. The tool will show you how many times they're searched each month, as well as additional related phrases that are relevant to what you put into the tool. So that's why it's like a thesaurus. You'll see how many times they're searched each month, and probably the most important point here is you want to focus on the buying intent keywords. I know someone asked this question, what is buying intent? There's no tool that I know of that tells you if the keyword has buying intent other than just looking at the keyword. Put yourself in the shoes of the person searching and think about what it is that they are actually looking for. Are they looking to make a purchase, or are they just doing research? There's really 2 types of keywords: buying intent keywords where they're looking to make a purchase, or research intent keywords where they're just doing research. And in this example here, let's say you have a dental office and you're doing some keyword research. You find cosmetic dentist in NYC, and then you also find the keyword how to get whiter teeth. So both of those are relevant, and prospects for a dentist search both of those keywords. But when you start thinking about, which one is actually looking to make an appointment with a dentist, how to get whiter teeth is not really going to fit that criteria. It doesn't really have any buying intent versus cosmetic dentist in NYC. I hope that's more clear now that that person searching that phrase is most likely looking to schedule an appointment with a dentist. And it's really on a spectrum. There's no, clear cut 100%. That's a person who's going to buy, and that's a person just doing research. You want to make sure that you're on the side of the spectrum where you're pretty confident they have buying intent. And then I wanted to give Mike an opportunity to explain how to use SpyFu for SEO keyword research.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll just sort of explain the differentiator, because keyword research is like a topic that I could at least give an entire presentation on, at least in the context of SpyFu. But the difference is with SpyFu is you can figure out what's been successful for your competitors, and sort of avoid the mistakes that they've made, and build from what's been successful for them. So rather than just sort of typing in a keyword and getting back a list of related ones, SpyFu sort of tells you why they're related. Well, they're related because they've been successful for your competitors in their AdWords or in their SEO campaigns. We also then will show you what's the best ranking content or the best content for you to build. And ultimately then we show you sort of how to get ranked on those keywords by what content to build and who to become friends with in order to get the right links. Let's see. So some people here have asked a question here about the accuracy of search volume in the keyword planner tool. Do you have a perspective on that? Otherwise, I have some sort of quantifiable data on that, I guess. Sort of I'll just answer it. It's sort of like it's a rough range. It's not very accurate, but it's probably accurate within an order of magnitude. To be honest with you, I've been dealing with Google's keyword planner / keyword tool data for the last 12 years, and by far it's the least accurate thing that we deal with. It's the worst data source that we have. Everything on SpyFu that you ever see is auditable back to a screenshot of a SERP. So when we say your competitor is showing up on this keyword at this time, you can actually look at a screenshot where we actually pulled that data from. But the data that we get from Google's keyword planner tool, where they say here's the search volume or here's the CPC, while we directly source it from Google, it's kind of like it's truthy. It's not, but it's not true. And so we try to improve that and so on, but it's actually kind of and it's only sort of gotten worse over time. It's never gotten better. And like recently, Google has made it so that you can only get that data if you have a paid AdWords account. Otherwise, they give you even worse data. It's like they give it to you in like ranges of like it's either 10,000 or 100,000, but whatever. You don't care about anything in between there, right? So, but we still get the good data, of course. But it's something that they don't seem to like have any incentive or whatever to improve. So it's kind of gotten worse over the years.
Yeah, I should clarify. So the Google's tool will show you the exact match. And what I mean by that is if you type in the example here, cosmetic dentist in NYC, giving you the, we'll call it a rough estimate for how many times that exact phrase is searched. You really need to take that with a bit of a grain of salt because there's going to be variations of that keyword with words probably before and after and even in between. And Google's only giving you data on that exact phrase. So that's an important point. And somebody else asked if they're only showing you the advertising data. In theory, it should be the same amount of searches regardless of SEO or advertising. So it doesn't really matter. You can use the tool for both advertising, search, and for SEO, how many times that keyword is being searched. But then the additional data as far as competition levels and the cost per click that they're showing, that is specifically for advertising.
Sweet. Dan asked, are these keywords, I think he's referring to the SpyFu stuff. Are these keywords for the SEO side or the AdWords side? And the answer there is that we have both. So we have, so you can type in your competitor's website and you can see all the keywords that they rank on organically, and you can also see all the keywords that they buy on AdWords. So it's both sides of the house. Of course, you can also see all the backlinks that they get to their site and such. I think.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see if we can answer some of those other questions in the next round of question answering.
Okay, so step 2, second R, is relevance, and specifically here we're talking about making your website relevant for those keywords you found when you do your keyword research. And this is really marketing 101. You're trying to match the message on your site to the market. So whatever they're searching, you want to match that on your site. And Mike mentioned this earlier. You want to think of basically group keywords into the theme. So you'll have a lot of similar keywords where the intent of that keyword is exactly the same. Google knows the intent is exactly the same. So you really only need one page to target the very similar keyword phrases. And then what does it mean to make your site relevant? We touched on this earlier. You want to incorporate that keyword in the page title. And I included the HTML there. It's the title tags. And then in the HTML headers, you want to incorporate maybe a variation of the keyword you're trying to rank for. And then we mentioned this earlier, you'll naturally put the keywords in the body copy, but you don't really want to think about it when you're writing the copy. You want to think about writing the page for your prospective customer, not writing it for Google. And if you have one page that's targeting just a handful of closely related keywords, you're naturally going to include that keyword in the copy, so you really don't even have to think about it. So anything to add, Mike, on this?
No, I think that's pretty solid. I'm just like watching the questions as they come in. We've got like 125 questions, so it's like and like one comes in per second, or one comes in every 15 seconds. So I'm just sort of mesmerized by these, trying to like work them into like my next slide. So sorry.
That's all right. All right. So the third step or third rule or third R here is going to be reputation. So at this point, you've done the keyword research. You know which keywords you want to rank for. You've made your website relevant for those keywords by identifying pages on your site to optimize or creating brand new pages to optimize. Next, you obviously need to outrank the millions of other pages that are also relevant for that keyword, and that's where reputation comes in. And when we talk about reputation, it's also called domain authority, and by far the biggest factor in your reputation or your domain authority is the quantity and quality of links. And the way I like to explain it is it's reputation by association. So if you are, if you think about the real world, if you're hanging out with other people who are credible authorities in your industry, you kind of get that reputation by association. And the reverse is true. If you're hanging out with people that no one really respects, then you kind of get that negative reputation by association. The same thing happens online. Google will look at who is linking to you, and if other legitimate, credible websites that have good reputations, strong domain authority are linking to you, in turn, your website will naturally get a strong domain authority. The last point on this topic is you don't want to go out and buy links. Google doesn't count links when you buy them, and you don't want to think about necessarily creating links, even though you are obviously creating links with an SEO strategy. It's better to think about how can you attract links on your site, and by that I mean, what can you have on your website that would be really valuable for other websites that are relevant in your industry. And Mike's site, he already mentioned it, just by the nature of his business. He's got a tool, and he has information that he's giving away for free that is extremely valuable. So that is a great way to attract links. People are naturally going to link to SpyFu because he has great information on his site.
I love the specificity. Somebody asked this question: if you're doing SEO for a cell phone repair shop, is it detrimental to do separate pages for iPhone 5 repair and iPhone 6 repair, etc.? So it's like, and it's cool because it's like, oh yeah, no, that's like like that'd be duplicate content. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. The question is, is it? If those are separate topics, right? Like iPhone 5 repair and iPhone 6 repairs, you write it as different things. But if you like swap out just the keywords and sort of dynamically generate the content and that's it, then that's obviously a horrible choice. But if you actually write or create content that specifically talks about how to repair your iPhone 5 and then more about how to repair your iPhone 6, that's pretty ideal, actually.
Yeah, another way to think about it is there anything different about it? So does there need to be a separate page? Because that's basically what Google's trying to solve that riddle. When someone searches for iPhone 5 fixes, is there one page that could answer that question as well as iPhone 6? And if you need two separate pages, then that's totally fine, and Google would want two separate pages if that is the case, because that would be the better solution for the searcher.
Exactly.
All right, so now that we did promise 3 SEO hacks, and I know we are a little bit over, so we'll try to speed this up. But now that you understand those 3 rules, so you got research, relevance, reputation, you will understand these 3 hacks. And the first one here is for Mike.
Oh yeah. So at SpyFu we sort of came to the we built a backlink tool after in 2000, let's say 14. And the interesting thing about this is that we built our backlink tool while backlinks were becoming what people felt like were dangerous. And the idea was, how do we make it so that building backlinks, backlink outreach, and that whole thing is not dangerous, like it's safe for anybody to do, because it turns out that, like as you were just talking about, the authority of your domain is based on the links that point to it, right? And the relative authority of those links, and basically influencers recognizing your site as link worthy. And so one thing that you do is you build like remarkable content, but the other thing is if you can sort of influence those inbound links in some way, that's actually, if you can getting those links is what drives your ranks. And so if you can make that process better, if you can get more links, then you're definitely going to increase your ranks faster. But there's a lot of dangerous activity that's going on, and even if you have the best intentions, you could still get yourself in a bad situation, because people will still straight up sell you your links, but you shouldn't buy those links, right? That could get you into trouble in the long term. So what we wanted to do is figure out how do we make it so that there's a completely safe process. So what we did with our backlink tool was we said, well, let's make sure that any recommendation that we give anybody is 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 recognized is currently indexed by Google, right? So that means that link itself is safe. So if you were to get a link from this site, that you wouldn't be penalized, even if what we're recommending is that you get a link from a a forum or sort of a directory. These are all currently indexed by Google and recognized as an authority in their space. So, and then what we wanted to do is make it so that you could what you want to do is you want to rank on a keyword, right? You don't necessarily want to just get random links. Well, which sites are authorities on that keyword? Which ones can drive you the right kind of links? So we wanted to make it so you could type in a keyword, get the links that you can that'll drive you up, and make sure that they're all safe. But then take it a step further and say, here are those people. Here are the people that write the content on those sites. So on SpyFu, you can type in a keyword, find the links, and then it automatically finds the authors of the content, the controllers of those websites. And then what you do, and this is how you can do backlink outreach without really lifting a finger. Like, it's not like you're going to cold call anybody, but you can influence your outcome sort of passive aggressively. And what you do is you create a list of all those influencers for the keyword you want to rank on. You get all their social media contact and such that we already have, their emails and their social media, and then you create custom audiences on Facebook and Twitter. And every time you publish a piece of content, you then just promote that content to that list. So you're not asking them for anything. You're just by having your content be an impression, you're creating a likelihood that they're going to share it. So basically, you're going to get links from people that are going to drive you up in the ranks, but you have zero risk of actually getting penalized in any way by Google. And so that is my hack, and it's built into SpyFu. The whole thing is completely like a semi-automated process. Oh, somebody asked for a screenshot. I can do that. Let me queue that up, but let's have Phil give his, and then I'll just show you what it looks like.
We'll circle back right after this. That is an awesome hack. I appreciate you sharing that. This next one is what's called piggyback SEO. And now that you know the first three steps, I saw some people wondering what about the fourth and fifth. We're going to get to those in a minute. But now that you understand the first three steps, this will make sense. You're going to piggyback on other high authority websites. What you're going to do is publish content with your keyword in the title of, let's just say, the article. And since you're publishing that on a domain that already has a high authority, the chances that that article will rank high in Google is very high. So let me show you an example. You search how to create a Google AdWords campaign. At least when I took this screenshot, this article was number 3. It's called How to Create a Profitable Google AdWords Campaign from Scratch. And that's an article that I wrote and then published on kissmetrics.com, which has a high domain authority. It has a really good reputation in Google's eyes. And because of that, since I matched the keyword in the title of that article, it was a highly relevant page. So that's step 2. And then we already took care of reputation because it's on a domain that already has a strong reputation. So that article was ranking very quickly after publishing it on this other website. And then another example here, just the same article for Google AdWords campaign, ranking number 3 just after Google's own websites. So again, the phrase Google AdWords campaign is in the title, so we're matching it, and that makes it a relevant article, and it already has the strong reputation. All right, let me know if you're ready.
Yeah, I should be ready here. I'm going to try to do this. No, it's perfect. I just need to pull up my GoToMeeting thing. It's got to, yeah, go ahead and share it. So somebody asked for a screenshot. What I'm going to do instead is give you a quick demo of how this works. And so I created over here in, I got to minimize a couple of things like the questions box is like taking over my whole screen. I created over here on the side of SpyFu, I created just now, I created a new project for Main Street ROI. And so what I'm going to do, probably a pretty good like inbound marketing agency we'll use. That's going to be the keyword that I'm going to search for in our backlinks area. And what that does is it pulls up all these backlinks. These are backlinks that drive traffic on inbound marketing agency. So we can sort of filter this by blogs or directories or forums or whatever. But ultimately, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add these links over into Main Street ROI over here. I'm going to go ahead and grab some blogs just so that I have a bit of variety. Some of those were already blogs apparently. So this is adding these links over into our project management area. Let's go ahead and grab a couple of GovEDUs. Why not? I'm going to get a little variety. You see those are coming from EDUs. And then I'm going to pop this thing open. I'll just click View on this one. And so this is actually showing me the links, and you can see all the individual link. But here's all the links that I just added, and here those are broken down as websites. And when I go into these, so like somebody wrote something on obviously HubSpot is, if you get a link from HubSpot.com, you're probably going to do well ranking on inbound marketing agency. But let's take a look at what this thing discovers when we go in here. We can see contacts that it automatically goes out. As soon as you add these things, it goes out and starts digging up all these contacts, right? So we're going to add these guys in as contacts. I'm going to grab a couple of other websites here. And oh yeah, here's a nice EDU. Let's see what we can deal with. Okay, so yeah, look, so we got some structures here. These guys, and by the way, so if you want to prove to yourself the value of these links, what you can do is you can look at them and say, well, how do I know that it's driving? How do I know that it's driving the right kind of like link equity that I'm looking for, right? And oftentimes these links will actually rank themselves on the keywords that you're on keywords similar to the ones that you're looking for. But anyway, so anyway, what ends up happening is as I build these things out, I can actually see, I build this list of contacts for myself, and you go into these guys and you see that we have their Facebook, their Twitter, their LinkedIn, and so on. So you just export this list, right? And you export the list and then you import it into your Facebook as a custom audience, and then you promote directly to them. And that's pretty much, I mean, we don't have, I could sort of give a whole demo on this whole thing, but that's in 3 minutes how the whole thing works.
That's awesome.
Thanks. Let's see where we're at on your
all right, so
slides.
Let me quickly go through. Third and final SEO hack is local SEO. If you're not aware of this, it's a huge opportunity for businesses looking to rank locally. So if you're trying to attract local customers, clients, patients, you want to, and when you do a search and you see that Google's showing the map on the first page of the results and then businesses under the map, that's in the realm of what's called local SEO. And what you're really trying to do is get your Google My Business page to show up high in those map results. And the process is basically the same with a slight twist. You can still do your keyword research. You want to make your profile relevant, most importantly, choosing the right categories. You choose categories in your Google My Business, and those are basically like your keywords. And then with reputation, with local SEO, it comes down to reviews. Everyone knows what those are. and also citations. And a citation is a mention of your business name, address, and phone number. And the obvious citations are business directories. So you want to get listed in a lot of legitimate business directories that mention your business name, address, and phone number, and you want to have that be consistent across the internet. Google will look at that, and if you have consistency across all of those citations, then that will improve your chances of ranking high in those local results. All right. So
yeah, the local SEO is a pretty deep thing, but definitely the first place to start is got to be the citation stuff.
Yeah, we could do a presentation all on that. I won't go through this success story in the interest of time. The fourth R here is SEO revenue, because SEO is not about just getting rankings. Mike mentioned this earlier. He actually lost, what was it, like 40 million page views, and a lot of that actually didn't even hurt his revenue because it just wasn't relevant or people looking to make a purchase. So the number one goal is
my ego, though, man. It hurt my ego. My ego is permanently damaged.
When it comes to making money from SEO, I could boil it down into these three factors here. I mentioned this earlier. You want to write your website copy for your prospects, not Google. So just have really compelling sales copy on your site. Can't emphasize enough social proof. Most clients, when we review their sites, they don't have a lot of social proof, and that's a tough hurdle. When you think about all the skepticism online, people are just very skeptical when they first come to a new website. So the more social proof, the better, with reviews, testimonials. And then CTA is a strong call to action. Make sure you have some kind of call to action. You're making it clear what you want the prospect to do when they come to your page. And number two here is a lead magnet, which is basically some kind of free report, a free demo, some way to get contact information from all of these visitors, because only call it 2% of the people that visit your site are really going to be ready to buy right when they come on your site. So call it 98% of your traffic is going to come to your site and not make a purchase, not call you right away. So you want to have some way to capture their contact information, and if you use a lead magnet, get their email address, you can then follow up via email marketing. And the third factor, we hopefully hammered this point, you want to be ranking for buying intent keywords in the first place. If you're ranking for research intent keywords, you'll get a lot of traffic because those tend to have a lot of search volume. But obviously, if people are just doing research, that doesn't tend to translate into leads and sales. And finally, you want to be tracking your return on investment. Mike mentioned Search Console is critical. You want to make sure you have that set up. And Google Analytics, both of those are free tools, pretty straightforward to get set up. And as long as you set up goals or conversions in Google Analytics, then you can see how much traffic you're getting from Google organically, or all of your organic search, and most importantly, how much of that traffic is actually converting on your site and turning into a lead or a sale. The fifth R is responsibility, and it really just comes down to who is responsible for your SEO. Make sure someone on your team is responsible. Mike already said, there could be lots of people on your team responsible for different areas of SEO, and SEO is a pretty large topic, but you do want to have one person leading that charge. Hopefully we made the point that SEO is not a set and forget it strategy. It does take ongoing work, and I always recommend businesses only delegate SEO, especially if you're looking to hire a consultant or an agency. Make sure you understand the basics. That's kind of the point of this presentation, is making sure you understand the basics of SEO, so then you can delegate either to somebody else on your team or go off and hire an agency or a consultant. And this last slide here, these are not my kids. I just randomly found this. Google updates equal opportunity, and that's the point that in the SEO world, everyone freaks out when Google makes an algorithm update. But the reality is, if you're following best practices and using those hacks that we outlined, especially that link building hack, that's not going to get you into trouble. What will happen is when Google makes algorithm updates, people that are doing things that are against Google's terms are going to get lower in the rankings. That's going to open up spots for all the businesses that are doing it correctly to move up in the rankings. All right, now we're on to gifts for attendees that have made it this far. My gift here, and then Mike will go through his gift. I'm giving an SEO bundle, 2 step-by-step training video courses. So the first one here is the complete SEO tune-up. That's to get your website optimized for your target keywords. You can go to our site. We sell that for $97. Also the local SEO formula. That goes through all of the steps to take advantage of the local SEO opportunity. Again, that's $97. We'll also do an SEO audit and 30-minute consultation, which is $300. The normal price there is $494. And you can get everything listed above for only $97 by going to mainstreetroi.com/SEO-bundle. And that URL will be on the final screen as well. So, Mike, I'll let you go through this.
Awesome. So, what is it? 25% off of the first 3 months of SpyFu. If you go to bit.ly main spy there, we'll hook you up. Also, last time I know everybody, I got like 20 asks for anybody that's a current SpyFu subscriber. We'll upgrade you guys to a pro annual, which is an $899 pro annual for the price of a normal annual, which is $599. So it's like the normal pro account is like $139 a month. So you're kind of getting it for like $49 a month, which is pretty sweet if you're an existing customer. But what you need to do there is just hop on live chat and talk to Danielle. And she knows. Just tell her Mr. Spy told you what's up. It'll happen. We have 178 questions, Phil. How is your day looking? Because I'm happy to sit on here and answer as many of these as possible. But I know like you have like you sometimes have things that you have to get to.
Yeah, like last time, I do need to pick up my kids, but I can do.
Oh, yeah.
I say 10 minutes, and then I will have to run, or else I get a fine for picking them up late. They don't like to babysit my kids for too long.
Sure. Well, I'll just go back about 40 questions back up here, and we'll try to like nail those guys. Somebody asked, and I believe they're talking to me. What do you mean by influence? No, I'm sorry. Yes, they asked, what do you mean by influencers? I'm going to just sort of combine a few of these. What do you mean by influencers? And by promote, what do you mean paid promotion? And what is a custom audience? So I'm going to kind of answer all three of those real quick. What I mean by influencers, of course, as kind of evidenced by like the demo there, was just the people that can like either write the content or that can give you the type of link that you need. And what I mean by promotion is I do mean paid promotion, and by that I mean custom audience on Facebook. Facebook just works really well. Twitter also can work. I've just never been able to like really make Twitter work for anything except for this sort of thing. So I spend more time doing Facebook promotions. But what that means is that when you go into the Facebook Ad Manager area, I don't know what it's called, Facebook Ad Manager, but you know what I mean. You go in there and you can import a list of either Facebook IDs or email addresses, and from that it'll create an audience, and that's an audience is like you know, it's kind of like a retargeting audience or whatever. These are people that you're going to, when you enable an ad campaign, that you're going to show your ad to these people. So you can do that for an audience, I believe, as small as 100 users on Facebook. It might be 20. Might be that you only need 20 users in order to do that. And this will cost you nearly nothing. So when I say that you're going to promote this and you're going to pay for the promotion to these influencers, it might cost you $5 to put this thing in front of them, you know, 10 times. So it's a really, really inexpensive thing. I mean, if you wrote the content, it's easily worth your $5 because they're going to link to it. It's just the way it is. So that's that one. Do you see one in there, Phil, you want to answer? Or ask me?
Well, Steph said, does this package for $97 work for WordPress and Shopify? I can answer that one quickly. Yes. And I don't think, I'm pretty sure that was for me. I don't think there are any limitations to SpyFu.
Right. Everything you see on SpyFu is all you can eat, which is actually a differentiator for us. Most, you know, even Moz and stuff like that, which people kind of ask about, everybody has limits, but we don't. Somebody asked this question about, in today's SEO world, how relevant is the page URL? It says she would focus, but should we focus on creating URLs that are keyword-centric as opposed to just generated nonsensical URLs? How does it rank in the algorithms these days? I don't think that as a percent of the time that okay, so you should spend some amount of time making sure that your URLs aren't hideous, but mostly from a user experience perspective, because the URL, you know, the URL bar or whatever in your browser is part of what you see when you're experiencing a site. And if that thing is like just hideous, if your URLs are hideous, it kind of takes away a little bit from, I don't know, technical users like me who like look at that and kind of like judge you based on that. But I don't think that Google does hardly at all. I would say that it's like, in terms of ranking factors, maybe a 0.5 or 0.25% of your ranking is going to be based on keywords in URL. It's obviously just too easy to hack. The only difference in that is potentially, like, you know, exact match domains do still have some ranking authority just based on that, but you know, I wouldn't spend much time at all worrying about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. You don't want it hideous. I think I might have seen someone write in, like, when the URL has like a question mark and all this stuff after it, that technically you can clean that up. So rather than having like question mark, color equals green and all that, that could be its own clean URL. And that would be something you want to talk to your developer about. And that, again, from just the user standpoint, it's better. Plus, there can be some technical issues with having stuff after question marks.
Oh, yeah.
Like a /, like have different folders essentially.
That's a good point, but even still, if you have some things in your URL that, like you're saying, something like green, whatever, that don't actually change the true nature of the content, that could create that duplicate content issue for you, right? So
right.
That's one thing to look at in terms of, well, is there anything? And a lot of people put it used to be that people would put like session ID in the URL. That'd be like a thing that would happen, you know, on a lot of e-commerce sites. They'd have like session ID in the URL, and that sort of like made it so that pages would not cache. And obviously, you can do that, but you definitely need to have canonical tag. That's sort of a case for the canonical thing. Somebody was asking about 2 separate root domains Where was that one? It's like things get buried relatively fast. I apologize. I've been trying to keep track of the ones that are pretty important. They were talking about, crap, I wish I could find it, but the idea is you've got two different domains. You know, it's like sort of like an alias. So like, okay, so for example, SpyFu has this, right? We have spyfu.com, spelled spyfu.com, and then we also have spyfoo.com, and we also have FooSpy and FooSpy and like 30 different misspellings of SpyFu. I've bought them all. And so hypothetically, all of those root domains would point to the same URL. Oh, as I recall, I just can't find the question, this guy was talking about their exact match domains, and so he wants, so there may be like some value to having the exact match, like it would be like, so I have spyfu.com, but maybe I also have like keywordtool.com. And, you know, keywordtool.com is this sweet, you know, exact match, you know, keyword is in, the right keyword is in the domain, and that could point to the same root, like homepage. So the thing is that your mileage may vary, and there are possibly some extenuating circumstances, but like the right answer off the shelf is don't have that be the case. Redirect one of those URLs. Make sure that all those base URLs resolve and redirect. So it's not only that they have to point to the right IP address. That would be resolution. That would be like name resolution, but it also needs to redirect, meaning a 301 permanent redirect to your to the main one that you want it to be on, to where you're driving your sales from and such, basically. Do you see any holes in that strategy?
No, I definitely agree with that. And I guess using your example, just making sure you redirect the keywordtool.com over to spyfu.com.
Yes.
That's basically your quote money site.
Does somebody says that fuspy.com does not go anywhere. I may have messed something up. It probably should.
I love when you get corrected.
Yeah, I know. That's awesome. I actually appreciate that. Yeah, oh, look, it doesn't go anywhere. It just like literally goes nowhere. I'll have to look into that. Thank you. Always making more and more mistakes. So let's see. Oops. Oh no, I just closed something. I closed that window.
Yeah, I would say one more. Well, I'll get one if you're trying to open up. Does your link strategy need to be reciprocal, or can it simply be one direction? In other words, if I link to one site, does that site need to link back to me? That's a great question. We did not address reciprocal linking, but basically Mike's strategy was not trying to get reciprocal links. Ideally, you're getting other people to just link to you. Google, if all your links are reciprocal, Google can actually figure that out. It's pretty easy to see. Oh, they're just kind of doing a link exchange. And you're just, that's basically your strategy to get links, and that's trying to manipulate Google. You know, doing something unnatural would be doing reciprocals or buying all of your links. So that would not be the recommended strategy. You want to just ideally trying to get one-way links. With that said, it's okay to link to other sites. I don't want to give that impression.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, so you only want to, or your blog or whatever, you only want to link to your other content in your site. It sort of like follows that would make sense, but that's not the case. Google actually wants you to do outbound links, and in fact, doing outbound links will actually increase the authority of your site and can like lead to some unintended reciprocity, right? So that's so there's really no downside from an SEO perspective to doing outbound links from your content. So should we wrap up? I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we're.
We need to run.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. I mean, it's another great, amazing audience. 190 questions. We're gonna. I mean, to the extent that it's possible, we'll go through these and answer them. You know, in here. I'll actually keep this up, and while you're away, I'll try to reply to these people on in here. But I guess if we don't, then we'll figure out some way to respond.
Okay.
We both agreed that we're sending out. We'll send out this webinar as a video. Somebody asked me for what? The backlink example, the backlink link outreach example. So we'll send that out as a video as well. We have a different video that we can send out for that. So yeah,
okay,
thanks
great.
a lot for having me again. It's been a great one.
Yeah, thanks for joining. This was great, and hopefully everyone can see this on the screen. If you want to take advantage of those gifts, mainstreetroi.com/SEO-bundle, and then the SpyFu gift is bit.ly/mainspy. And after I close out, I would appreciate everyone completing the survey. We do go through the survey responses, and one of those questions is suggestions for future webinars. And we are currently planning the 2017 schedule, so would love to get your feedback. With that, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye-bye.